All right, this is Daniel chapter 10. That's where we're at today. Daniel chapter 10. Daniel 10 actually tells us how Daniel received the prophecies of Daniel 11 and 12. So we're going to try, it's not a very long chapter, we're going to try to go through chapter 10 and half of 11 today. And then next week we'll do the rest of 11 and 12 and we'll be finished. So let's go ahead and just read all of Daniel 10 right now. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a word was revealed to Daniel, who was named Belteshazzar. And the word was true, and it was a great conflict. And he understood the word and had understanding of the vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. I ate no delicacies, no meat or wine entered my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all for the full 3 weeks. On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, that is the Tigris, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. For the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled and hid themselves. So I was left alone and saw this great vision, and no strength was left in me. My radiant appearance was fearfully changed, and I retained no strength. Then I heard the sound of his words, and as I heard the sound of his words, I fell on my face in deep sleep, with my face to the ground. And behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. And he said to me, O Daniel, man greatly loved, understand the words that I speak to you, and stand upright, for now I have been sent to you. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia, and came to make you understand what is to happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision is for the days yet to come. When he had spoken to me according to these words, I turned my face toward the ground and was mute. And behold, one in the likeness of the children of man touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spoke. I said to him who stood before me, O my Lord, by reason of the vision, pains have come upon me, and I retain no strength. How can my Lord's servant talk with my Lord? For now no strength remains in me, and no breath is left in me. Again, one having the appearance of a man touched me and strengthened me. And he said, O man greatly loved, fear not, peace be with you. Be strong and of good courage. And as he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, Let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, Do you know why I have come to you? But now I will return to fight against the prince of Persia. And when I go out, behold, the prince of Greece will come. But I will tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth. There is none who contends by my side against these except Michael, your prince. All right. Verse 1. We are told, Daniel tells us that this vision took place in the 3rd year of Cyrus. Cyrus, of course, was the Persian king. Remember, there were the Medes and the Persians. Darius was the Mede king, and Cyrus was the Persian king. So we know that this was 536 BC, approximately. Now remember how we talked about how Cyrus gave the decree for the Jews to be able to return back to Israel. This is approximately 2 years after that. And the Jews went back to Israel, but not all of them went back. Some of them decided they kind of liked where they were. They got settled, and so they stayed in Babylon. And Daniel did not return. He's in his 80s now. And so, and he's still in government, has government duties. He's still part of the government. So he never did return to Israel. But so this is about 2 years after many of them returned. Daniel said that the word was true. He's telling you this is really what's going to happen. This word came from the Lord, and it's true. We believe that all of these words came directly from the Lord, and they're true. And everything's here for a reason, even if we really don't understand what the world is about. Every word here is here for a reason. Now, many of these words were for the benefit of the Jews, because it was telling them what was going to take place in the future that involved them. And especially chapter 11 is about the future of the Jews. In verse 2, it says that Daniel was in mourning for 3 weeks. So he was fasting and he was praying. We don't really know why he was in mourning. Maybe it's because so many of the people had decided not to return, or that those who had returned were really having a difficult time while they were there. They faced a lot of opposition even after they returned. Notice that there are different kinds of fasts. We often talk about a Daniel fast, but this is a different fast that Daniel had. It says that he had no choice foods, and no meat and no wine. But he still ate, but he was in fasting. He fasted from certain things. And so as we fast, we can fast from certain things. We know some people do that during Lent. They'll fast from something, maybe from chocolate or whatever. But yeah, so there's different kinds of fasts. But it's something, when we fast, it needs to be something that when we're craving that item, that we're looking to the Lord, that it draws us into prayer and into a spiritual relationship closer to the Lord. So this is what his fast was at this time. In verse 4, it was said it's the 24th day of the first month. The first month for the Jews is the month of Nisan. And it says that he was standing on the bank of the great river, that is the Tigris. Now, Babylon is not on the Tigris River. It's on the Euphrates. And so he was some distance from Babylon, but there were men with him. So right now, he's not having a vision. He's on there maybe on some governmental duties or some reason. Yes?
Doesn't the Tigris and the Euphrates run parallel?
Yes, they do. Yes, they're parallel. Yeah, there's a fertile crescent there. Yes, they're close to each other, but not really. I mean, if you're on foot. Yeah. Today they're closer than they used to be. Right. If you look at a map. All right, it says that he was standing on the bank of the great river Tigris. He lifted up his eyes and saw a man clothed in linen. Now, there's a lot of different, commentators are mixed here. There's two different men, appearances of creatures that look like men in this chapter. Many believe that this is an appearance, it's a theophany, it's an appearance of Jesus. One reason we believe that is because, let's turn to Revelation chapter 1. This is an appearance of Jesus to John in Revelation chapter 1, verse 10. Let's start with 10. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet saying, "Write what you see in a book and send it to the 7 churches, to Ephesus, and to Smyrna, and to Pergamum, and to Thyatira, and to Sardis, and to Philadelphia, and to Laodicea." Then I turned to see the voice that was speaking to me. And on turning, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and in the midst of the lampstands, one like a son of man, clothed with a long robe and with a golden sash around his chest. The hairs of his head were white like white wool, like snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. And his voice was like the roar of many waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars. From his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword, and his face was like the sun shining at full strength. Okay, so now if we look back in Daniel, it says that he saw a man clothed in linen, with a belt of fine gold around his waist. And in Revelation, it says that he had a garment to his feet. It says he had a golden sash around his chest. In Daniel, it says that his face was the appearance of lightning. And over here in Revelation, it says that his eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were burnished bronze. And in Daniel, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze. Daniel says the sound of words like the sound of a multitude. In Revelation, it says his voice was like the roar of many waters. Kind of sounds like the same person, doesn't it? And we know that the one in Revelation was Jesus. So that's why many believe that this is a theophany. This is an appearance of Jesus in Daniel, that came to Daniel. Others say this can't be Jesus because it was helped by the angel Michael. So, like I say, if you read commentators, they're mixed on who it was. In verse 7, it says that there were other men with him. They didn't. So now he has a vision. This being is probably a vision. But there were men with him, and they couldn't see what he was seeing, but something happened that terrified them. So we don't know what exactly was going on when he saw this vision, but the other men with him were terrified, and they ran and hid.
The presence.
Yeah, just this presence. They knew something was happening. Something terrifying was happening. And only Daniel saw the person, or the being, supernatural being. And so then he was left alone. And it says that his face just lost all color. He turned white, and he lost all strength. And looks like he fell into a deep sleep in a prostrate position, because he says, I fell on my face in deep sleep with my face to the ground. So he just fell face down.
I know with other visions, it seemed like it zapped the strength out of him as well.
Yes.
It's like, he exhausted.
That's right. It was such a difficult thing for him, right? So, and then in verse 11, it says that once again, he's called, O Daniel, man greatly loved. And he's told to stand up, for he's been sent to him. And so he reached down and touched him, and at first it says that he was trembling on his hands and knees. He couldn't even stand up. He was just, trembling on his hands and knees. But this being then took his hand and lifted him up. Verse 12. He said to me, fear not, Daniel. Don't we often hear that whenever there's an appearance of an angel? It's always, don't be afraid. An angel is a frightening appearance to whoever sees it. It's fear not. It's the first thing they say. From the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. Okay, now this seems like a different being. Because this one, many believe that this is a second supernatural being there. Because this is the one that is in angelic warfare. It says that your words have been heard, and I've come because of your words. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia. So, I think that in verse 10, it was an angel that came and took his hand. At first he saw Jesus who came there, and now an angel comes and takes his hand. And so this is the one that's talking to him and who's going to reveal the vision to him. The prince of the kingdom of Persia was a satanic representative assigned to Persia. He was sent to try to influence the rulers of Persia against God's plans. If we study, I've done a whole study on angels, and we don't really have time to go into all of them. But angels, there are hierarchies in the angels. And there's great evidence, like here, that there are angels, satanic, there's good angels, heavenly angels, that are assigned to different cities, countries, and cities, nations and cities, and maybe even towns, but this is one that was a satanic angel that was assigned to Persia. And so that's who was opposing him, because he didn't want them to know what was going to happen in the future with the Jewish people.
I wonder if those angels are still there.
I think so. I believe so. Absolutely.
What was the question?
Or if they're still over nations today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if those particular angels, the ones that he was talking about, that fought against him, if they're the ones that are there, it's obvious they are, that they're
Oh,
there.
yeah. There's
So I
definitely.
wonder if it's the same
I
ones.
wonder too. Yeah. Something we'll find out, won't we?
Maybe that's why he was fasting.
Maybe.
Because
Yes.
that's the amount of days that he fasted.
That's the amount of days that he fasted, right? Yeah, it was 3
Praise
weeks.
God, so-
Because then, after the 3 weeks, then that's when the angel
Yeah.
came to him.
Yeah, but I mean, then he says, the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the amount of days that he had been fasting.
From the first day that he began to pray about the situation, until, that's when the angel started to fight. And it took 21 days before he was actually able to get through to Daniel. And it says the only reason he was able to get through to Daniel was because Michael, the great archangel, came and helped him in the battle.
There's definitely a hierarchy of angels.
Yes,
We see that throughout the Bible.
that's right.
Jacob wrestled with an angel
Yes,
all night,
that's right, yes.
and yet, thinking, surely an angel could have taken him.
Yeah.
In fact, it wasn't until morning the angel dislocated his hip.
Yes, yes,
But he still wouldn't let go until he blessed him.
yeah.
And it changed his name to Israel. But in 2 Kings, when Hezekiah was surrounded by the Assyrian army, he prayed to God,
That's right, that's right.
and that night God sent one angel, and one angel killed 183,000 Assyrian soldiers.
Yes, and remember when Ezekiel, I think it was Ezekiel, that they were coming against him, and his servant was like, oh, what's going on? And he asked the Lord to open the eyes of his servant, and and he saw the host of angels
Elijah.
about him.
So
Elijah, okay.
Even
Elijah.
Satan's
Yeah,
angels or demons have a hierarchy.
yes,
Here, the prince of Persia resisted Daniel
yes.
the 21 days.
So the
Elijah. I think it was Elijah.
Elijah, yeah, that's right. Elijah, yeah, I think you're right, it's Elijah. Right, it was before Elijah. But anyway, yeah, throughout the whole Bible, we see angels. We're not supposed to worship angels, but the angels are definitely there, and I do believe that, like we talked before about the book of Frank Peretti, how that's a fascinating book, because in that, it's fiction, but when the people pray, the angels, it affects the angels, and there's war in heaven. So, yeah, it's a very interesting study to try to get a grasp of understanding. But so that's what this is. This prince over Persia is a satanic being. Okay. So the demonic angel attacked the messenger sent to Daniel for 21 days to prevent this message from getting to him. Remember, we talked about how Michael is the special guardian of the affairs of Israel. And so this vision was about Israel's future, and it was so important that the prophecy get to Daniel. So that's why we see this conflict. And because 14 says, it came to make you understand what is to happen to your people. Your people are the Jews in the latter days. So that was in the future of them, and then also we're going to see that it's in the far future, which affects us as well. Now, in verses 15 through 19, we see where Daniel is overwhelmed to the point of being speechless at learning that the angelic demonic conflict has delayed the answer to his prayer. And to meet Daniel's need, the angel first quiets his fears, opens his mouth, strengthens him, and now he's ready to receive the message. And in verses 20 and 21, he said, "Do you know why I've come to you? But now I will return to fight against the prince of Persia, and when I go out, behold, the prince of Greece will come." What he's saying that is, as soon as he's finished with that prince, he would have to fight with the Prince of Peace. The implication was that the Medo-Persian Empire was going to fall to Greece. And then the Prince of Persia would be replaced by another evil demonic prince, the Prince of Greece, who Satan would assign to that new kingdom to influence the policies against Israel. So,
This is Michael the archangel speaking to him?
no, it's not. It's another angel, because it says that Michael came to help him. See, he says that Michael came to help me to get through. So,
Yeah, in verse 13, Michael.
Yes.
I like, my version says Michael, one of the chief princes. So Michael is just one of
Yeah,
the top.
that's right.
hierarchy.
One of the chief princes, right? Which tells us there's right there that there's a hierarchy of the angels.
That there are others.
Right, that there's others. There's archangels and seraphim and cherubim, and they all have their own duties and things that they do. We study the angels. Okay, so we've kind of, so just remember that we know that the demons or fallen angels are Satan's subjects, and demons are mentioned throughout the Bible as well. Satan and his demons are known by the discord they promote. They start wars, they stir up hatred, they initiate murders, they're opposed to God and God's people. But remember, Satan is not omnipresent. He can only be in one place at one time. Same way with the angels. They're not omnipresent. Only God is omnipresent. So that's why he has all of his demons, to extend his power, to go and do things and report back to him. But he's not omnipresent. And he's not equal to Jesus. Jesus is God. And Jesus is omnipresent. So they're not equals at all. And of course, Peter tells us our adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. So spiritual warfare is a whole nother study, but here you get a glimpse of that there is spiritual warfare going on, not just among people, but among nations. There's demons that influence the nations. Okay, that's Daniel 10. Kind of ran through that because I want to get into Daniel 11. Now we're going to get into a remarkable section of very detailed prophecy. There's the scoffing critics out there that says, no way this passage could have been written in Daniel's day, because it's so many years before the events described. And there's so many details that actually came to pass. They insist that no one could possibly foretell so much specific detail so accurately and so far in advance. So it must just be a record of history. But a mere man didn't foretell history. God did. God revealed it to him. And like we talked about before, we found pieces of Daniel in the Dead Sea Scrolls that show that it was indeed written long, long, long before these events happened. So let's turn to chapter 11. So now we're in the first year of Darius the Mede, and he stood up to strengthen him.
First, though,
Yes.
Is this what the angel told
Yes,
Daniel in 10?
yes, yes.
Now we see.
Now we're getting, yes, what the angel's telling him, right. Daniel 10 is just kind of telling us how he got the vision. And now in chapter 11, we're actually going to get the vision. Let's read chapter 2, verse 2.
I'm gonna go turn it off.
I don't know what's happening with it. Okay, did you pause it or turn it off?
I paused it.
Good, okay. So, verse 2, and now I will show you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings shall arise in Persia, and a 4th shall be far richer than all of them. And when he has become strong through his riches, he shall stir up all against the kingdom of Greece. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion and do as he wills. And as soon as he has risen, his kingdom shall be broken and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, but not to his posterity, nor according to the authority with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up and go to others besides these. Okay, as we've already learned in Daniel, after the Medes and Persians conquered Babylon, after the Medes and Persians conquered Babylon, there were 4 successive kings, and that's what this is talking about here. There were 4 successive kings of the Medes and the Persians. The 4th one was Xerxes, and that's the king in the book of Esther, right? He was a Mede, a Persian king. So if we study history, we learn that he staged a long and bitter battle against the Greeks. So that's what it's talking about here, that the 4th king will be stronger and he will stir up against the kingdom of Greece. The mighty king shall arise, that is Alexander the Great. And he will rule with great dominion and do as he wills. And then remember, we talked about how after he died, his kingdom was divided between his 4 generals. He actually had 2 sons, but they were murdered. So the kingdom was divided, but not among his posterity, which it says right here. It wasn't among his sons. It was it went to others besides these. Now, I've given you a chart here to kind of, so you can follow along a little bit of what's happening. And here at the top we see these are the 4 generals that the kingdom of Alexander the Great was divided between. Now all we're going to worry about is the last 2, because the last 2 are the ones that affect the Jews. Now, if you look at a map, where is Egypt and Syria in relation to Israel? Egypt's to the south and Syria is to the north, right? So these are the ones that were closest to Israel and that really affected them. In fact, it was the Ptolemies of Egypt and the Seleucids of Syria. They fought each other for 130 years. Since Israel was right between them, it kind of acted as a buffer. And it was a location of many of the battles that were actually between Egypt and Syria. And it seemed like when they wanted to beat up on somebody and they couldn't get to each other, that they just beat up on Israel. Like we kind of see happen today, huh? Right. So that's why it was between Egypt and Syria, were the ones that affected them so much. Now, verses 5 through 20 are going to trace the various struggles between these 2 kings. So we see the kings of the north of Syria and the kings of the south in Egypt. And we're going to look at each things that happened. And this is what's amazing. It's a little bit, you're like, oh, why do we have to study this? Once again, it's affecting the Jews and it's more important to them. But remember, this was prophesied years and years before. And these things, we're going to see how everything that Daniel describes here really happened in history. That's how we know. These were really kings. These, if you look in your history books, these were the kings, and these are things that really happened. Okay, verse 6. Verse 5. The king of the south shall be strong, but one of his princes shall be stronger than he and shall rule, and his authority shall be a great authority. So, the prince of the south is Egypt, right?
Mhm.
After some years, they shall make an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the strength of her arm, and he and his arm shall not endure, but she shall be given up, and her attendants, he who fathered her and he who supported her in those times. Understand what happened? What's
Yeah,
going on?
that's all.
Sure. This is what happened. There was a marriage between Berenice, the daughter of Ptolemy II in Egypt, with Antiochus II, who was the king in Syria. But Ptolemy thought that he would gain power over Syria through this arrangement. However, Antiochus already had a wife. Her name was Laodice. He divorced her to marry Berenice and to forge this alliance with Ptolemy. It didn't go well. When Ptolemy died a few years later, Antiochus then divorced Berenice and took back Laodice. Laodice was so incensed about how she'd been treated that she had her husband Antiochus, Berenice's baby, and all those who'd accompanied her from Egypt murdered. And then she set her son Seleucus up as king. So now we see Seleucus, right? Seleucus II. Now we're down to the fourth one, Seleucus II. So there was a marriage between Antiochus II and Ptolemy II. And now we've got to Seleucus. Verses 7 and 8 say, and from a branch from her roots, one shall arise in his place. He shall come against the army and enter the fortress of the king of the north, and he shall deal with them, and shall prevail. He shall also carry off to Egypt their gods with their metal images and their precious vessels of silver and gold, and for some years he shall refrain from attacking the king of the north. Then the latter shall come into the realm of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land. The branch of her roots is Berenice's brother, Ptolemy III. He's now king in Egypt. He's rather upset about his sister's murder. So he brings an army all the way to Antioch in Syria and levels it. According to the historian Jerome, he plundered their temple and took back to Egypt 40,000 talents of silver, 4,000 talents of gold, and over 200 idols. The end of verse 8 says he shall continue more years than the king of the north. You'll notice on your chart that he actually lasted through 2 Syrian kings and into a third. So this was Ptolemy III. All right? So that's what it's talking about here. A branch of her roots shall arise, come against the north, and then it's going to carry off all of these things. That actually happened. Verse 10. All right, in verse 9 it says that the latter shall come into the realm of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land. Around 240 BC, Seleucus II invaded Egypt, but he was defeated and had to return home. We know that from histories. So that's what this verse is talking about. In verse 10, it says, he's gonna do that. Okay. His sons shall wage war and assemble a multitude of great forces, which shall keep coming and overflow and pass through, and again shall carry the war as far as his fortress. So, this verse means he actually had two sons. There's Seleucus III, the fifth one here, and Antiochus III. They spent many years building up an army to come against Egypt. Seleucus III was killed in an early battle, so his brother Antiochus III took control. He made rapid conquests and he retook Syrian territory held by Egypt. By 219 BC, he had conquered parts of Israel and the Transjordan as well. Up until this time, Israel had been under the control of Egypt. So, Israel had been under the control of Egypt, and now they were taken over by the Syrians. This is verse 10. So that's what it says, that he shall pass through, shall carry the war as far as his fortress, king of this, and then the king of the south, moved with rage, shall come out and fight against the king of the north. So this is the king of the south is Egypt, king of the north is Syria. He shall raise a great multitude, but it shall be given into his hand. And when the multitude is taken away, his heart shall be exalted, and he shall cast down tens of thousands, but he shall not prevail. For the king of the north shall again rise a multitude greater than the first, and after some years he shall come on with a great army in abundance place. So this is just, again, it's just describing war after war between Egypt and Syria, and Egypt and Syria, back and forth and back and forth. And we know, again, from history, that these things actually took place. Okay, now in 14. In those times, many shall rise against the king of the south, which is Egypt, and the violent among your own people shall lift themselves up in order to fulfill the vision, but they shall fail. Then the king of the north, which is Syria, shall come and throw up siege works and take a well-fortified city. And the forces of the south, Egypt, shall not stand, for even his best troops, for there shall be no strength to stand. But he who comes against him shall do as he wills, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land with destruction in his hand. We're now to Ptolemy the fourth. No, the fifth. Ptolemy the fifth, down here in Egypt. He was actually 4 years old when he became king. Okay? Antiochus the Great, which is number 6 over here in Syria, saw this as an opportune time to retaliate against Egypt. He marched south with this great, large, well-equipped army. But Jewish rebels decided to help Antiochus the Great to take Israel away from Egypt. You know, they thought that if they had this alliance with Syria, it would aid Israel. But instead, it brought their nation into Syria's grasp. And then it made them subject to the horrors that Antiochus Epiphanes would bring upon it in later years. And we've heard of Antiochus Epiphanes before. So he was the king in Syria, and because they had an alliance with Antiochus the Great when he fought against the Egypt kings who were over them at the time, that actually brought them under Syrian rule. It wasn't a good thing. So, but their actions actually helped to bring about the fulfillment of the vision in Daniel 8. Verse 17. He shall set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom, and he shall bring terms of an agreement and perform them. He shall give him the daughter of women to destroy the kingdom, but it shall not stand or be to his advantage. What this is talking about is there was a marriage between Antiochus's daughter, her name happened to be Cleopatra, but she's not the famous one. Her name was just Cleopatra. So there was a marriage between Antiochus's daughter, Cleopatra, and Ptolemy V. Now, it was actually arranged in 197 BC, but it didn't take place until 193 BC because Ptolemy was only 10 years old at the time of the arrangement. Now, Antiochus thought that he would gain control of Egypt by this arrangement. And that's what it's saying here in 17. It says, he shall bring to terms an agreement and perform them, and shall give him the daughter of women to destroy the kingdom. So he thought that if he gave him his daughter, that it would help him take control of the kingdom. But it shall not stand or be to his advantage. Well, he thought that his daughter would remain loyal to Syria, but she didn't cooperate and she became a devoted wife instead. So that's what this is referring to, that it didn't go as he had planned. It shall not stand or be to his advantage. In verse 18, afterward he shall turn his face to the coastlands and shall capture many of them, but a commander shall put an end to his insolence. Indeed, he shall turn his insolence back upon him. When Antiochus the Great turns his attention to the coastlands, which is, where would that be? Where would the coastlands be?
Mediterranean?
Yeah, along the Mediterranean, which is what today?
Israel.
Yeah.
Gaza.
Oh,
That's the,
yeah.
that's the coastlands, right? So here we see that it's taking place in that area where the Jews are. When he turns his attention to the coastlands, he encounters a group of people called the Romans. Now, they believe that this is their territory. This is the first time that we see them come into the picture. It's before the Roman Empire, but they're starting to have influence. And so here where it says that he took his face to the coastlands in verse 18, a commander shall put an end to his insolence. Indeed, he shall turn his insolence back upon him. So he defeated him. He wasn't able to take him to the coastlands.
The Roman did.
Right. The Romans put an end to his insolence, right?
Do you know around what year that was?
That was in, no, I don't think. Well, let's look on here. Antiochus the Great was in 223 BC to 187 BC. So it was in that period right there. It's Antiochus the Great that we're talking about,
Okay.
okay? So that's when they first come into the picture. All right, verse 19. He shall turn his face back toward the fortresses of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and shall not be found. In 187 BC, Antiochus the Great was killed while trying to rob a temple in Elam in order to replenish his exhausted treasury. So that's what it's talking about when he'll turn it toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. He died. He was actually killed. All right, verse 20. Then shall arise in his place one who shall send an exactor of tribute for the glory of the kingdom. But within a few days he shall be broken, neither in anger nor in battle. He was succeeded by his son Seleucus the fourth. Seleucus the fourth Philopator. He imposed heavy taxes on the people of Israel. Here it says that an exactor of tribute for the glory of the kingdom. The tribute is from the people in Israel. He actually sent his prime minister Helidorus to Jerusalem to take the wealth of the temple treasury. Interestingly, a short time after this, Seleucus suddenly and mysteriously died, possibly of poisoning in 175 BC. So that there we see that's His death was in 175 BC. And that's verse 20, what it's talking about. Within a few days he shall be broken, neither in anger nor in battle. So it wasn't in a war, it wasn't in battle. All right, I'm actually going to stop there because verse 21 and forward, some of your Bibles may actually say it's about Antiochus Epiphanes. I have this Bible doesn't, but I have another study Bible that titles, the heading there is Antiochus Epiphanes. So from 21 on, we're going to be talking about Antiochus Epiphanes, and then it's actually going to be talking about the Antichrist. And so we're going to stop there because it's going to go into a great deal about, again, about that king and then about how it relates to the tribulation and the end times. Okay, is it a little bit clearer now than when you first read it? Maybe just a little bit, but the amazing thing is that, you know, what we can see from history what it's talking about, that these things actually happened. Just as Daniel said, God told Daniel they were going to happen. And everything that happened affected the Jews who were in Israel at the time. And so,
They were looking forward, we look back.
right, he looked forward and we look back, right? So we know that this was a prophecy of the future and it really happened. And so it's amazing how God told him what was going to happen. And we're going to learn more about what actually happened in the future with Antiochus Epiphanes and what's going to happen with the Antichrist. And he said in the latter days, and we're still looking forward to the latter days for us. And so we're going to talk more about that next week. And we're going to try to finish up through chapter 12 next week. Any questions or comments? I said this one was a little bit difficult to get through, but
You did well.
thank you.
I did that.
And you could always go back and watch it, and if you're really interested.
You've had a lot of these, to have these papers that you're passing on to us. We've been in another class where you've gotten a lot of this information, I take it.
Yes, I've actually taught this several times. The first time we went through called a precept upon precept study in Germany, which lasted an entire year, where we went verse by verse and you parse the verbs and, really go into depth. And then I taught it in Japan as well, at the chapel there. And it was very interesting. The two top commanders in the Navy there attended my class. And the second in command, his wife told me that's the only Bible study he'd ever attended, the first one he'd ever attended. So that was kind of exciting.
Went right to the most difficult.
Right, so, yeah, it was good.